Rang de Basanti, 2006, directed by Rakesh Omprakash Mehra, is a powerful Bollywood film that explores themes of patriotism, social responsibility, and the fight against corruption. With an ensemble cast including Aamir Khan, Siddharth, Soa Ali Khan, R. Madhavan, Kunal Kapoor, Atul Kulkarni, Sharman Joshi, and Alice Patton, the movie juxtaposes India's colonial past with the country's modern-day struggles, inspiring youth to take responsibility for the nation's future. The film became a critical and commercial success, leaving a lasting impact on Indian cinema and social consciousness. Here's a detailed summary of Rang de Basanti, setting and introduction. The film begins with Sue McKinley, Alice Patton, a British documentary filmmaker who comes across the diary of her grandfather, an officer in the British Army during India's colonial period. Sue's grandfather was responsible for the imprisonment and execution of Indian freedom fighters like Bhagat Singh, Chandrasekhar Azad, Rajguru, and Ashfaqullah Khan. Deeply moved by the courage of these young revolutionaries, Sue decides to come to India and make a documentary about them, hoping to bring their stories to life in modern times. When Sue arrives in India, she reaches out to her friend, Sonia Soa Ali Khan, a young woman studying in Delhi. Sue intends to cast Indian actors to portray the revolutionaries in her film, but her initial attempts to find suitable actors prove frustrating. She finds that the young generation in India is largely indifferent to the country's history and struggles, more interested in partying and enjoying life than engaging with political or social issues. Sonia introduces Sue to her group of friends, DJ, Aamir Khan, Karan Singhania, Siddharth, Aslam, Kunal Kapoor, Suki, Sharman Joshi, and Laxman Pandey, Atul Kulkarni. These young men represent different facets of modern Indian youth. DJ is carefree and reluctant to think about his future. Karan is a rich industrialist son with a distant relationship with his father. Aslam comes from a conservative Muslim family. Suki is fun-loving and immature, while Laxman is a staunch nationalist with ties to a right-wing political party. Initially, none of them are interested in being part of Sue's film. They don't take her seriously, dismissing her documentary as a futile attempt to revisit a past that they believe no longer holds relevance in contemporary India. However, Sue's passion and sincerity slowly win them over, and they agree to participate in the project, though with little understanding of the revolutionary figures they are set to portray. The parallel between past and present. As Sue begins shooting her documentary, the story of the Indian revolutionaries and the real-life experiences of the modern-day characters start to intertwine. DJ is cast as Chandrasekhar Azad, Karan as Bhagat Singh, Aslam as Ashfaqullah Khan, Suki as Rajguru, and Laxman as Ramprasad Bismil. Sonia plays the role of Durga Babi, a revolutionary who fought alongside Bhagat Singh and Azad. Through the process of filming, these carefree young men slowly begin to identify with the freedom fighters they are portraying. The film draws parallels between the British colonial oppression and the current state of political corruption and disillusionment in India. The young men, who once dismissed their country's history as irrelevant, start to see the significance of the sacrifices made by Bhagat Singh and his comrades. The lines between the past and present blur, as the film's characters realize that the ideals of freedom and justice are still relevant in today's India. The film cleverly uses flashbacks to the time of the Indian freedom struggle, showing how Bhagat Singh, Azad, and their compatriots fought valiantly against British rule, even when it meant laying down their lives. These flashbacks are interspersed with scenes of the modern-day characters gradually awakening to the realities of their own lives, recognizing that they too are living in a society that is deeply flawed and in need of change. AJ's death and the catalyst for change. The turning point in the film comes when AJ Rathod, R. Madhavan, a close friend of the group and Sonia's fiancé, dies in a tragic accident while flying a MiG-21 aircraft for the Indian Air Force. AJ's plane crashes due to technical malfunctions, and the government attempts to cover up the incident by blaming pilot error. However, the group soon discovers that the real cause of the crash was the corrupt practice of purchasing substandard parts for the aircraft by politicians and defense contractors, resulting in the deaths of many Indian pilots. AJ's death shatters the group's carefree attitude. They are devastated, especially Sonia, who loses her fiancé just days before their wedding. The incident serves as a wake-up call for the group, and they are forced to confront the harsh realities of government corruption, political indifference, and the lack of accountability in India's system. They realize that AJ, who was a patriotic and idealistic officer, is just one of many who have fallen victim to the greed and corruption of those in power. This tragedy ignites a fire in the group. They begin to see the world around them through a different lens, and they realize that their passive acceptance of the status quo is no longer an option. Inspired by the revolutionary ideals of Bhagat Singh and Azad, whom they have been portraying in Su's film, they decide that they must take action to bring justice for AJ's death and expose the corruption that is rampant in the system. The journey from indifference to activism. The group's transformation from apathetic young adults to determined activists is a key theme in the film. DJ, who was initially the most carefree and detached, emerges as a leader, driven by a sense of responsibility toward his country. Karan, who had a strained relationship with his father, begins to confront the deep-seated issues of corruption and privilege that he had previously ignored. Aslam, who struggled with the tensions between his Muslim identity and his place in Indian society, finds solidarity with his friends in their common cause. Laxman, the nationalist who once supported right-wing ideologies, realizes that true patriotism means standing up against injustice, not just blindly following political rhetoric. The group initially tries to fight the system through peaceful means. They participate in protests and try to raise awareness about AJ's death and the corrupt practices that led to it. However, their efforts are met with indifference and suppression by the authorities. Frustrated and angry, the group feels that their voices are not being heard, and they begin to question whether nonviolent methods are enough to bring about change in a society that seems to be immune to moral appeals. Taking extreme measures. As the group becomes more disillusioned with the system, they decide to take a more drastic course of action. Drawing inspiration from the revolutionaries they have been portraying, they conclude that the only way to make their voices heard is through direct, revolutionary action. They plan and execute the assassination of Defense Minister Shastri, the corrupt politician responsible for the substandard aircraft parts that caused AJ's death. The assassination is a pivotal moment in the film, marking the group's full transformation from indifferent youths to radical revolutionaries. However, their act of violence is not met with the heroic reception they expected. Instead, the media and the public vilify them as terrorists, and the government launches a massive manhunt to capture them. Realizing that they cannot escape the consequences of their actions, the group decides to take responsibility for what they have done. They seize control of a radio station and broadcast a message to the nation, explaining their motivations and the reasons behind their extreme actions. They express their frustration with the corruption, injustice, and apathy that have plagued the country and call on the youth of India to wake up and take responsibility for their nation's future. In their final moments, the group refuses to flee or surrender. They are cornered by the police in the radio station, and in a tragic and emotional climax, they are killed in a police shootout. Their deaths echo the sacrifices of Bhagat Singh, Azad, and the other revolutionaries they had been portraying in Su's film. Just as the revolutionaries gave their lives for the cause of Indian independence, the group dies fighting for justice and accountability in modern-day India. Themes and messages. Rang de Basanti is a film rich with themes of patriotism, responsibility, and the power of youth to bring about change. One of the central messages of the film is that true patriotism is not just about loving one's country passively, but actively fighting against injustice and corruption. The film emphasizes that the ideals of freedom and sacrifice, embodied by figures like Bhagat Singh and Azad, are still relevant in contemporary times, and it challenges the youth of India to take ownership of their country's future. The film also explores the concept of generational disconnect. The young characters in the film initially feel disconnected from the history of India's freedom struggle, seeing it as something distant and irrelevant to their lives. However, as they confront the realities of corruption and injustice in their own lives, they begin to see the parallels between the colonial oppression their ancestors fought against and the modern-day oppression they face in the form of political corruption and indifference. Another key theme in the film is the idea of personal responsibility. The characters go through a profound transformation as they realize that it is not enough to simply complain about the problems in society, they must take action to address them. While their journey takes them down a path of radical and violent resistance,